Almost all of Puerto Rico has no electricity on New Year's Eve. The failing grid in Puerto Rico is the single worst infrastructure crisis in the United States. The 3 million American citizens of Puerto Rico have no right to vote in federal elections. Puerto Rico has no representation in the Electoral College, the House, or the Senate. It is a colony of the United States, and its failing grid is a symptom of its second-class status. Two things to point out here about this. One, this is coloniality and neoliberalism converging in Puerto Rico, right? The Associated Press had a piece in 2023. They said, quote, Puerto Rico privatized its electricity production, selecting Genera PR to take over the operation and maintenance of state power generation units in the U.S. territory as part of a $22.5 million annual contract. Genera PR is a subsidiary of a New York-based New Fortress Energy, privatizing the transmission and distribution of power in June 2021, that's when the decision was taken initially to privatize Puerto Rico's electricity grid. It did not lead to an improvement in issues, including the length of outages, which has worsened between 2021 and 2023. The power situation on the island is so dire that the U.S. government recently announced it would supply temporary electric generation via barges and land-based generators. That's in 2023. What I'm saying is, it's not a new problem. It is directly a consequence of privatizing the electricity grid. And even though a self-governed Puerto Rico might also choose to privatize its electricity grid, it would probably choose to privatize it not by a New York-based firm. And it would have to be politically accountable to its people for that decision. Puerto Rico is a colony. AOC had legislation actually last year that was called I think it was called the Puerto Rico Self-Determination Act or some shit. And the idea is look, Puerto Rico has or should have the right to decide if it wants to be a 51st state, formally part of the federal system, including all the rights and obligations that come with that, or if it wants to be independent, or if it wants to be a third thing, which is kind of in between, which is called free association, which is when you self-govern on domestic policy, but on stuff that counts as foreign policy or national security, you give up your sovereignty and you transfer it to another power. Yes, that's very imperial. So the second thing I wanted to say about this was Puerto Rico's situation is better known to people in New York and Florida than the situation in the Pacific Islands. But a fully 1/3 of the Pacific region is non-sovereign, a non-sovereign Pacific. It's the same kind of arrangement that the U.S. has with Puerto Rico. This is imperialism right now, colonialism right now, right? Guam, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and American Samoa are all in the literal exact status of non-sovereign coloniality as Puerto Rico. AOC's Self-Determination for Puerto Rico Act, where I read the whole bill, all of it applies to Guam, CNMI, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, and American Samoa. There's no reason to exclude them other than having a blind spot, not realizing that the situations are exactly the same. And if the situations are the same, if you're in an objective position of oppression, you have a solidarity of position. And so you ought to act like that. We ought to have that consciousness, and we ought to advocate on that basis. These countries are commonly denied equality, and so they're commonly denied self-determination. And the non-sovereign Pacific consists of more than just these countries that are colonies. It also consists of New Caledonia and French Polynesia, which are French colonies, right? France has been fighting in New Caledonia basically to make sure that they don't have self-determination. And then there are a bunch of semi-sovereign, halfway sovereign countries in the Pacific, the freely associated quote-unquote states, Palau, the Marshall Islands, and the Federated States of Micronesia. All of these places are denied full sovereignty, full independence. Some of them Guam, CNMI, and American Samoa and Puerto Rico are denied self-determination fully, full stop, no caveats. We owe. Something's got to be done about it, you know?